Good morning, everyone. We're broadcasting from the beautiful Agora Coffeehouse in the Fontana Shopping Center, located 51st and Memorial in Tulsa. We do invite you to join us this morning. In fact, if you come in and agree to be interviewed on this radio station, which is actually nestled right here in the corner of the Agora Coffeehouse, we will buy you a free cup of coffee. You can't beat that with a stick, folks. So come to the Agora Coffeehouse, Fontana Shopping Center, 51st and Memorial. This morning we have Costa Rica and what other coffee do we have today? Costa Rica and Ethiopian coffee, I believe. Two exotic coffees, and they are delicious. If you're looking for a really good cup of coffee, come to the Agora Coffee House at 51st and Memorial in the Fontana Shopping Center. By the way, this is a big shopping center. When you approach it, I guess if you're coming in from 51st Street, just continue halfway around the middle circle. There's a circle, mid-circle in the shopping center. Go halfway around and just continue straight, and they're right there on your right. And that's where we are right now. Come in here, visit, and say hello to me as well. You can keep me company and also be part of the show if you'd like. Folks, I encourage you to get educated on economic issues. I'd like you to go to Andy Sutton's website, sutton-associates.net. In his monthly newsletters and podcasts, Andy discusses economic issues, but more importantly, how they affect you. For your daily commentary on current issues, I suggest that you read briefs by Paul Jacobs, Common Sense. Just go to thisiscommonsense.com. Liberty Talk Radio broadcasts are archived and available from our website as well as iTunes. You may also follow us on Twitter under @LibertyJoe. We're also on TuneIn, and we're another one. Where are we now? We just got replugged into another one. What's the Oh, yeah, we're also on, excuse me, folks, I had to ask my technician. We're also on Liberty Express Radio on the Internet. We are covering all the bands. You can't miss us. If you can't find us, we will find you. I can guarantee you that. Well, good morning, everyone. This morning we have a host of subjects that we'd like to discuss. We're going to be on the air for about 1 hour, but we do encourage you to call 888-773-4496, 888-773-4496. It's considered this open mic morning. Just come in whenever you want and call in and ask whatever question you want. It does not have to be on the subject that we are specifically discussing. But this morning, I'd like to talk a little bit about, which I talk about every program in one way, shape, or form, is the problem that we have as Americans. You know, the old saying, we have met the enemy, and it is us. That could not apply more to this particular time and our place in history. Why do politicians do what they do? Well, it's simple, folks, because we allow them to do so. But they do want to keep you very, very busy, if you're a Republican, to criticize the Democrats. If you're a Democrat, they want to keep the Democrats very, very busy criticizing the Republicans. They don't want to be part of that conversation. You see, it's the Republicans against the Democrats. That's the people themselves. But as far as the Republicans and the Democrats in office, actually in office, supposedly serving us, they're out of that dialogue. You see, they're immune. That's a different planet as far as we're concerned. We can go back and forth all we want on who the better president was, how terrible Obama was, and how great Bush is, and vice versa. But they don't want to hear that. They want us to just continue that dialogue among ourselves while they do as we please. Now, once we realize that it is not the Republicans against the Democrats, but it's them against us, then we can start changing this world for the better. And I do hear a phone ringing, and we've got to turn the phone off. Very good. Okay. You want to take this for me, please? It's my son, Paul. Yeah. And I'm sorry. We're just setting up here, and we have wires all over the place, phones all over the place. And we're not settled yet. We're not established yet the way we're doing this. This is only our second attempt at a broadcast. Actually, our third attempt at a broadcast. I think this is the first time we actually got online about on time. So we're really proud of ourselves. Every single week, we improve it. We're going to have this, actually a portable studio that we're taking around. It did take a heck of a lot of work. I applaud all the technicians because I have no idea what they're doing. So it seems to be working out well right now. What I was saying is that we do have this sense that we have some say in government when we have not absolutely none. We may have a little influence in government. In that, if you continue and everyone writes their congressman to ask them to vote a certain way, well, they'll eventually do that. It'll take a tremendous amount of time, effort on our part. Tremendous amount of time. We'll have to rally together, have meetings, petitions, writing letters. I mean, the amount of effort that we have to go in to ask a politician to please do the right thing for once. They may do that. If we put we can't do this every day. They weigh you down. I mean, they'll do it once, but the next time, bingo, you're out of the ballpark again. But they'll do it. But what they do is they will reject a certain bill, but when the next bill comes in, they'll sort of slip it in the back door, and they'll get their way anyway. You see, folks, we can't win this game. We are not in power. The only people in power are the people that we place in power and then argue that they're not doing a very good job. I'd like you to really think about that. Revolutions are made of that. And this company needs some sort of revolution, not a violent revolution, but we need a revolution of the mind, one in which we say to ourselves, I'm now fully awake. And you've heard this expression. There are certain people who are fully awake. There are certain people who are still drinking what they say, the proverbial Kool-Aid. The people who drink the Kool-Aid are those that accept everything that their candidate says. Now, if their candidate is not in office, they accept nothing. And that's the way they want it. They want it exactly that way. They've established a system where heads they win, tails we lose. We can't win that game, folks. You have to understand that. Let me give you an example. This week, again, please let me hear from you. Call 773-4496. We do have someone on the line, right? 773-4496. 888-773-4496. Or if you're on Blog Talk Radio, we still have that number of 646-652-4620. We have people on the line. You're listening via the telephone. If you want to ask a question or be part of the show, just dial 1. I just remind you of that. Now, this week, what have we heard in the news that was of critical importance to all of us? Come on, folks, all at once. Let's say, how about the governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, right? All week, the news was dominated by the fact that he had a surgery so that he could reduce weight. They call it a belly, what do they call that surgery? Lap band. I was going to say belly band. Yeah, a lap band. Now, first of all, of what consequence is that to us? Now, if we're in New Jersey, that should make absolutely no difference. We knew the people in New Jersey, when they went to listen to him speak, had a slight indication that the guy was severely overweight. They knew what they were voting for. So they voted for a person who was severely overweight, and typically, and I'm not saying in his case, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving a diagnosis, but people of that weight typically have a lot of problems. Diabetes, heart problems, blood pressure, and whatever, by virtue of their weight. And their weight is a product of what they eat. And I'll bet you he wasn't eating his vegetables every day. He was probably having a double bacon cheeseburger or whatever the case may be. But the people actually knew what they were voting for. So why make an issue of it? Why make an issue of the fact that a fella who is overweight now is taking measures? Unfortunately, I think he's taking the wrong measures. The measures he should take are he should discipline himself so he eats less, because this will not solve his problem. This may reduce the amount of pounds on his body, but eventually that lap band will be taken off. And then he'll be back to square one. He's going to have to make a decision of whether or not he is going to really lose weight, right, or gain it back again. But that's all immaterial. The point being is that why was that even mentioned on the radio? Why was it even mentioned? Is it of any consequence? That is what I would call a back issue, a back page human interest story that you would find on these trash magazines. But yet it dominates our news. It is a way in which we are kept distracted from what is really going on. You couldn't, and I condemn, by the way, let me use the word condemn. I will condemn the stations, the networks, and all talk show hosts who even broach that subject. I'm broaching the subject in that we should not be talking about it. We have other things to talk about. But you see, it becomes a popularity contest. Everything is popularity. If it's popular, they get more advertising revenue. More advertising revenue, they make more money. You see, it all comes down to taking stuff from us. We pay the price on either end. I don't applaud anyone for using that story in their particular program. Now, let me take another story. All right. Well, by the way, we have a new setup here. I have to find out where we are. Okay, there's the time. I just found the time. We have all new programs here, and I'll be honest with you, it's driving me nuts because I can find nothing. All right, we have about 3 minutes to break. Okay, good. All right. Excuse me, folks. This is all the new setup. It's a portable studio that we're experimenting with, and I am being 70 years old, I am having a difficult time adapting to all of this. Okay, all right. Let's take another news item. Let's take Syria for a moment, all right? And now we've been talking about Syria in nauseam. Let me ask you folks, do you know where Syria is? Do you know anything about Syria? You know what's interesting about Syria? If you and I were bikers and bicyclists, not motorcyclists, but bicyclists, we could very easily bicycle from Syria through the southeast part of Turkey, through the country of Georgia, not to be confused with the state of Georgia in the United States. I know there's going to be a problem. Or if we took the eastern route, we would go through the very, very tiny country of Armenia into Russia. My point being is that Syria is akin to, it's very, very closely, geographically, very, very close to Russia. Now, did you know that? Do you know the size of Syria? Do you know the population of Syria? Do you know strategically where it is? Do you know the history of Syria? Do you know what form of government they have? Truly the form of government, not what you hear on mainstream radio or TV. Do you know when they say the insurgents? Do you know who they really are? Do you know why they just popped up now and not a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 50 years ago? Do you know what kind of religions they have? What's their culture? How the country of Syria was formed in the first place? Well, if you don't know the answer to any of the... do you know who their allies are? If I put up a map and I said, here's a pin, show me Syria, you have 10 seconds, show me Syria. Could you do that? You know, Syria is over 7,000 miles away from the United States. There are not many rockets that can go 7,000 miles, by the way. I mean, unless you have a big ICBM type thing, which they don't have any. Since Syria cannot touch us in any way, shape, or form, and they're incapable of doing so, why are they in the news? Do you have the answers to any of those questions? Now, if you don't have the answers to any of those questions, then you have to ask yourself, why is it of such importance? Why are they talking about it? Do you know why? All right, let's discuss that when we come back from break. All right, here we go. All right, just stay with us.
Political talk derived from a historical perspective. Not always palatable, but good food for thought. Pure libertarian talk with host Joe Cristiano. LibertyTalkRadio.com.
Folks, we're back here. I'm back at least. We're broadcasting from the Agora Coffeehouse in the Fontana Shopping Center in, I guess it's Midtown. Is this considered Midtown Tulsa? Midtown Tulsa, 51st and Memorial. We encourage you to come by. It's an eclectic coffee house. I sort of like it. It has very exotic coffee. This morning they're serving Costa Rica and the Ethiopian coffee, two of my favorites. It's just darn good coffee, nice atmosphere, plenty of place to sit and drink. Bring your friends. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's the Agora Coffee House in the Fontana Shopping Center at 51st and Memorial. And in fact, if you come by and agree to be interviewed on this show or become part of this show, ask a question or whatever, I'll even buy you a cup of coffee, all right? Come visit us at the Agora Coffee Shop. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah, we were talking about Syria. We have no idea. We have no idea why we're talking about Syria. And yet, what's really interesting, if you ask the average person on the street, well, why are we involved in Syria? Well, there's a bad government. You know, they're using chemical weapons against the people, and and we're the policemen of the world. We've got to go. We have to stop that. You don't know that. You don't know anything. You don't even know where Syria is. Like I said, you know nothing. There would be very, very few people that are listening to this program who know anything about Syria whatsoever. Anything. But yet we have to send our troops 7,000 miles away to fight, and I'm not even sure what we'll be fighting or who will be fighting. Do we know who the insurgents are? Do you know where they get their support from? No. What if I told you they got the support from the United States that we instigated in the first place? I don't know that to be the case, but what if? There's a possibility. And if that's a possibility, what does that say about us? Now, let me turn the tables a little bit. Let's assume for a second that another country, whatever country, another country decided to instigate certain peoples in Mexico or in Canada, take your choice, and decided that they were going to start an insurgency in that country against that government. Now, whether you like the government of Mexico or Canada is immaterial. And all of a sudden, they start supplying arms, information, tactics, support, whatever, to these gangs that developed into an insurgency with the expressed idea of to overturn the government. Now, do you think the United States would sit here and say, well, that's the other country, whether it be Russia, China, India, I don't care where it was, Brazil, whatever, came in here, is supporting the insurgents, started this whole thing and wants to overturn the government, and then that government will be beholden to that other country that put them in power. So let's take Russia, for example, just because they're an easy mark, I guess. And let's say the Russians were doing that, and they were to put in a Marxist Russian supported government in Mexico. What would we do? Come on, folks, think about it. What do you think we would do? Why don't you call me at 888-773-4496. That's 888-773-4496. All right, if you're listening to Blog Talk Radio, we still have the number of 646-652-4620. You can call either one, and tell me, what do you think would happen? I'd like to hear from you. Well, many people would say, well, geez, we wouldn't allow that. We would kick their butt, man. We would go down there and we would send out troops. Yeah, of course we would. And if the Mexican government says, hey, we need some help. These guys have some high-powered stuff that we can't fight against. We need your help. Would we not go and help them? Well, sure we would. And you'd say, well, that'd be the only right thing to do. I would agree with you. Maybe I would agree with you, but most likely I would agree with you. Now, let's take Syria. Syria is an ally of Russia, just like Mexico is an ally of the United States. Why are we poking our nose and making decisions for that part of the world? And please, do spare me the statement that we're the world's policemen. Please, don't do that. You see, that is how a world war starts. It's not just one country. It's always foreign entanglements. That's how World War I started, which was the precept, actually, to World War II. The way Woodrow Wilson set the stage. He set the stage for World War II. We won't get into that now. Maybe we'll have to do a program on it sometime. But World War II was inevitable because the way World War I was settled. And it's always foreign entanglements are always involved. Now, we wouldn't allow another country to come in, topple the government, and for that government to be beholden to that foreign government at the expense of the United States. We would send out troops and whatever was necessary. That close to home, we would fight to the death. And we can justify that. Wouldn't Russia be the same situation that we're in? Let me give you a little fact about Syria. Syria borders the Mediterranean Sea. Do you know where the Russians park their fleet? Syrian ports. You see, Syria is their access to the Mediterranean. Without Syria, Russia would have absolutely no way of accessing the Mediterranean. Do you think that's important? You bet it's important. I mean, it's critically important. So, did you know that? Now, if you didn't know that, maybe you want to rethink your idea about Syria and whether or not we should be involved. Well, by the way, we are involved, and we're a good probability that we're causing that whole thing. Do you know who's right next to Syria? Iraq. What did we do there? What is right next to Iraq? Iran. What is right next to Iran? I'm going east. What's right? I don't have a map in front of me. This is just by thought, but by memory. Afghanistan, then Pakistan. And guess what? We're in all of those countries waging some sort of war or trying to hold something together, to our liking. You see, and that ties in very closely, very, very closely to the reason why we had the Boston Marathon bombing, where I think our news people should be condemned, and I use the word condemned straightforward. They should be condemned, is that they talked about the Boston Marathon bombing in ad nauseum, but never asked why. I mean, why? The real why. Not the fact that, well, they're Muslims and they hate our freedom and the Quran says that they should kill everybody that's not of their faith and all that stupid garbage that we get to believe. All that stupid stuff. It gets me so angry I can hardly talk about it. You see what happens, folks, and this is history, this is the human nature. When people, Gerald Celente, I love that guy. He gets so angry. He gets more angry than I do. And he has a statement. He mentions this almost on every show. He said, when people lose everything and they have nothing else to lose, they lose it. Well, folks, the common people, many common people in the Middle East have lost everything. Their governments are propped up by the U.S. government, the military, who subjugate the people. And the people have lost everything. There's no way that they can fight back. They are lucky to have a pair of shoes on their feet. And when they lose everything and they have nothing else to lose, guess what, folks? You can finish that one up. They lose it. And that's the situation that we created, the aura that we created in the Middle East. They can't fight us. We are, you ever watch Star Wars, the original Star Wars, the Death Star, the evil empire? That's the way the Middle East sees us, and understandably so. Because we are inflicting our values, our military, morals. We have no morals, folks. Our military in the Middle East where we don't belong, so that we can control that region. We have then access to the pipelines, the petroleum, and the opium. Don't ever forget opium, folks, and the opium trade. This is a financial war. This is a war of the pocketbook, and it always is. Because we do not control the media, the military. The bankers control the military. Because the bankers control the currency, and the currency pays the military. Very simple. They're the employer. The bankers are the employers. They're everyone's employer. We are the debtors. We are the slaves that pay the bankers to wage the wars. It's very simple. In fact, it's so simple, it's so clean, and it's so neat, it's disgusting. You don't have to even think about it. Because you wonder, I wonder why this happens. You don't have to wonder why things happen. All you have to do is know who's getting paid to do what, and who the payor is and who the payee is. We are the payor, by the way. But the media never, ever, ever asked, why do these kids, and they seem to be nice kids, and they are. They're probably nice kids at heart. Set off a bomb. Killed people. Now, that's an atrocity. I'm not taking away from that. That's wrong. It's an atrocity, and they should be tried as criminals, not as terrorists. They're criminals. And they should be tried in court, and if found guilty, they should be sentenced to the full extent of the law, period. I'm not taking anybody off. But you have to understand why they're doing it. And then what do we say? We have to step out our surveillance. We have to step up our resolve to fight terrorism. We cannot fight an adjective. Terrorism is an adjective. You can't fight that. What are you going to do? Fight all the adjectives? And when we run out of adjectives, we're going to go to adverbs and then nouns and then verbs? How are we going to do that? If you've ever read George Orwell's 1984, you'll see that he was not only right, but he was too conservative. I read that, and I will never forget my friend Steve, when I was working for an oil company, this is 50 years ago. And my friend Steve says, you read, he said, did I think that, he was on mark? I went, nah, he's way off. And I remember saying that. We were in the cafeteria. He was to my left, diagonally to my left when he asked the question. I remember asking that question, and I often wondered whether or not that was the right answer. Boy, was I wrong, 100%. In fact, not only was I wrong, but he was too conservative. Do you know in that 1984, during the book, the enemy changes. It goes from one side to the other, and you realize after a while that the government, depending on what they say, they change who the enemy is. They go from the, I think it's the East Asians to the Eurasians to the East Asians to the Eurasians, and you never know who's who. But it makes no difference. They just want to keep the war going, right? And for the people to work and support the war effort. They didn't care. They didn't care who they were. And that's what we have today. We don't care. We just want to keep the war effort going. And anyone who spends 5 minutes listening to the mainstream media, wasting their time. Absolutely wasting their time. In fact, you're not only wasting your time, you're contaminating your mind, which is even worse. Boy, another 15 minutes flew by. We have to stop for station identification. Don't go away. We will be right back.
Political talk derived from a historical perspective. Not always palatable, but good food for thought. Pure libertarian talk with host Joe Cristiano. LibertyTalkRadio.com.
Gotta be careful what I say, 'cause I might slip.
Okay, we're back. We're here at the Agora coffee shop. But no, Oh, Coffeehouse. I was corrected before. I'm sorry. It's the Agora Coffeehouse. Please join us. We're here at 51st and Memorial at the Fontana Shopping Center. This is a terrific coffee shop. I love this place. They have the best coffee in town as far as I'm concerned. Today's special coffee is Costa Rica. You ever taste Costa Rica coffee? It's fantastic, flavorful. And one of my favorites they also have today, I think I'm going to drink both of them. I'm going to walk out of this place totally wired. They have Ethiopian coffee. My father used to talk about Ethiopia all the time because he was in the Italian Navy back, in the 1930s. And he was talking about anyway, I won't get into that. But Ethiopian and Costa Rica today, we're at the 51st Street in Memorial, Fontana Shopping Center, the Agora Coffee Shop. If you come in from 51st Street, you're just driving straight. Sometimes a little confusing to find this place. You drive in straight, go halfway around the circle, continue to go straight. It's right on your right-hand side. So I guess from 51st Street, it's a straight shot north of 51st Street. And if you come in from Memorial, you come in straight, go halfway around. You just make a left turn and, a right turn, and you'll be on the right-hand side. Come join us. In fact, if you do join us this morning, I'll tell you what I will do. I will buy you a cup of coffee if you become part of the show. How's that? Okay? You become part of the show. Come in and agree to be interviewed. Even ask a question. Coffee is on me. You can't beat that with a stick. Now, I got to find out where I was before. When we talk about an issue, we have to make certain that we understand what the issue is. What is the core problem? What is the nature of the problem, and what is the very basis from that problem? How did it exist? How did it grow? I was talking about General Salente saying, when people have everything to lose, nothing else. When people lose everything and they have nothing else to lose, they lose it. And let me tell you something else that he says, and because he's a forecaster, and he doesn't predict, but he's a long-term trends forecaster, and he doesn't think things are very pretty at this point. He talks about how countries, how we get into these world war conflicts like World War I and World War II. He says, first you have a crisis like we had in 2008. We had a currency crisis in which we bailed out banks that were too big to jail, basically, not to fail, but to jail. The bums, they took your money, they gambled it, and then when they lost it, they're taking your money to bail themselves out. That's exactly what happened, folks. You are a slave. If you think you're anything but a slave, you are very, very mistaken. You are disclassified, right? You are disclassified. You have to reclassify yourself, all right? Be honest with yourself. Oh, and by the way, I want to mention that our call-in number is 888-773-4496. That's 888-773-4496. Let me hear from you. Give me a buzz and ask me a question on any subject. It's okay. We'll just leave the whole thing open. Now, but he also has another saying, you have a crash like we had in 2008, and the crash usually is followed by a recession or depression, right? And we say recession because recession is a nicer word than depression. We don't like to use that word. So we don't use the word depression anymore, so we use the word recession. And then from a recession, we have currency wars. That means countries, because it's all fiat, paper, worthless currency, they just print more to make their currency less valuable, thus making their goods cheaper to other countries, so they export more, which bolsters up their economy. But then everyone starts doing that, and then you have a cheapening of the worldwide currencies, and you call that currency wars. From currency wars, you have trade wars. In other words, I want to sell more stuff to you than you sell to me. Right? I want to get rid of my stuff because I want to keep my people employed. I want my economy to grow. Right? You have trade wars, which we're in right now. We have passed the currency wars. We're into trade wars. And after trade wars, folks, you have world war. And what do you see building up in the Middle East? A world war. Folks, this thing follows a pattern. It's a natural pattern. You can go back to the times of Mesopotamia. It makes no difference. You see the same thing over and over again. In Rome, they did the same thing. They devalue the currency by taking the silver out and putting lead in or something else in to replace the silver, right, to devalue their coins. Same situation. You can go back to Greeks. The Greeks, everyone's done this, right? We were on the gold standard. Goodbye, gold standard, right? Oh, antiquated. Gold is an antique, This is what they'll tell you, But we are on the verge of a world war. Now, who's to blame? Who is to blame for that? When I opened this program, who did I blame for the people and the actions of the people who are currently in office? Who did I blame? Think for yourself. Us. We did. Because we do things such as, oh, I voted for so-and-so. He was the lesser of two evils. In other words, we are admitting to ourselves that we voted for evil, but in our demented mind, we thought his evil was less than the other person's evil. How you arrived at that is far beyond me and not a subject of my conversation, nor do I want to discuss it. So then when the evil person gets into office, then what? We go, oh, you know, those politicians, they're all alike. Yeah, well, why'd you vote for them? Then we say something else. We come to another conclusion. Our conclusion is, well, it's our obligations to vote as a citizen. No. It's not our obligation to vote as a citizen. Read your Declaration of Independence. Read your Constitution. What your responsibility is that when a government starts becoming abusive, it is your obligation to dissent. As I said in the very beginning of this program, what do I say in the beginning of this program? In fact, I say in the beginning of every program, right? We have to dissent, right? We have to be revolutionaries in thought. Dissidents in action. That's dissenting. Dissidents in action. I'm not talking about revolution, going to the street, burning cars down. Don't get me wrong. We have to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action, because that's what our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution says we must do. Nowhere in the Declaration, nowhere in the Constitution that says it's your obligation to vote. If you're not, you're a bad citizen. Nowhere. Where did you learn that? In your stupid school system. Your dumb, stupid government school system. That's where you learn that crap. Good thing I don't get too excited about this stuff. Let me give you an example. I love this. Melissa Harris Perry. I love people with double last names. I have a friend. Her name is blah, 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 blah. And I say Pierce, Fenner, and Smith. That used to be a old Merrill Lynch, the name for Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith. You know, why don't you tag on every guy you dated and put his name in there? Anyway, Melissa Harris Perry, I think she's a congresswoman or something, but she said now we must get rid of the notion that children belong to their parents. And when we get rid of that notion, we'll start making a better investment. Now, how come that there wasn't a damn revolution in the street? Where were all the mothers saying, don't you tell me my children are not my children? But you know, folks, in a sense, she was absolutely correct. You see, children don't belong to their parents. I know you're thinking, where's this guy going? Children belong to no one. But the children are the responsibility of parents, not society. If society was responsible for my kids, every time something went wrong, I go, well, society screwed up again. What could I tell you? In other words, give the responsibility to someone else, and I can guarantee you it will never get done. I have 3 businesses that I have partial or full ownership in. I'm a talk show host. I am very, very busy. Do you think all the responsibility, the people who have jobs, it's somebody else's responsibility? It's the company's responsibility? It's society? No, everyone is responsible for what they do. Everyone. And what she said was so detrimental to society. But what bothered me is that I didn't hear any retort from anyone. I didn't hear on the news, people took to the street and asked Melissa Harris Perry to step out of office. You know, the paycheck should stop. That we don't want to pay her anymore. She's an idiot. She's detrimental to society. We heard no rebuttal on that. None. But we go, well, that's a good point. You know, society. Because we become stupid. And why do we become stupid? Because we watch television. You know, it's really not television that we watch anymore. It's television. It's television. Why don't you get that? Get it through your head. We watch television. Television is because we watch it and they're selling us crap. Either the news is selling us crap to make us think a certain way, or, you know, and there's more, or they're selling us crap. And all they want you to do is to be obedient, work your ass off, you know, make as much money as you can so it could be taxed, right? So they can continue their wars. We have a new plane that we've developed, and it's in production, by the way. It's called an F-35. We went to the F-18 to the F-35. That's how advanced this airplane is. It is so far advanced, no one in the world could even come close to touching it. But they're a bargain. They're only $200 million each. Who's paying for that? Come on, let me hear. Who's paying for that? Will someone call in 888-773-4496, 888-773-4496, and please tell me, give me an idea, who the hell is paying $200 million, $200 million for one plane? You know the answer to that. Where's the outrage? Do we need that? What do we need an airplane for? Oh, we got to defend our nation. What for? Defend it against whom? You ever look at a map? The north of us is Canada. Don't think they're going to attack us. Doubt Mexico is going to attack us anytime soon. Maybe in a few years, but not now. To our east is the Atlantic Ocean. Don't think any whales or fish are going to attack us. To the west is the Pacific Ocean. We're nestled by ourselves. And unless someone's going to send an entire army by ship or by rocket or whatever, no one's going to bother us. Yeah, but they send people over here with bombs and they're terrorists. And why do they do that? Let's go back to the original question. Why do they do that? Why do people come here and drive airplanes into the World Trade Center? Just put yourself in the shoes of the people who are there. You are relatively poor. We have to stop. Station identification one more time. Hold that thought, and if I forget what my thought is, call me and remind me. Here we are. Just stay tuned for station identification. Don't go away, please.
Political talk derived from a historical perspective. Not always palatable, but good food for thought. Pure libertarian talk with host Joe Cristiano. LibertyTalkRadio.com.
Gotta be careful what I say, 'cause I might slip.
Memorial. Come join us. We've got about 15 minutes left, so if you would like to come and join us here and have a cup of coffee, we have Ethiopian and Costa Rica coffee today. It is delicious. You're missing out on a treat if you don't come to the Agora Coffeehouse here at 51st and Memorial in the Fontana Shopping Center. It's nice. It's bright. I guess you call it eclectic. You call this place eclectic? Yeah, eclectic. And it's just, you can come here and read if you'd like. You can come here and listen to a radio station. If you come here within the next 10 minutes and ask a question or make a comment on my show, I'll even buy you a cup of their delicious, delicious coffee. All right. The last I left you, they had to remind me where I left you. Why do people do what they do? Why do they send bombs over here and terrorists over here? You know, what I find interesting is we watch movies like science fiction, any type of movie, and we always root for who? Whom? Do we root for the big organization? Do we root for Darth Vader, or do we root for the rebels, the dissidents, where the odds are overwhelmingly against them? You see, in the movies, we are always rooting for the rebels. And you see, there's hundreds of science fiction movies that really are metaphors for what we are going through today. The big ones would be Star Wars, The Matrix, and Avalon. Is it Avalon? Avatar, excuse me. I was just correct. Avatar. And now Oblivion. I haven't seen Oblivion, but they're all metaphors. You know, the blue pill, the red pill. Folks, most people have taken the blue pill. Most folks have taken the blue pill. That means they are now, their minds are totally controlled by the matrix, and they think they are living a good life. There are a few who have taken the red pill that are staying out and fighting this gigantic matrix with all the robots. Robots, drones, robotic warfare. Where did that come from? You see, folks, these people, the ones that we root for in the movies are the ones that we are condemning in reality. Folks, this is so critical to your thinking. I'm going to repeat that. The ones that we root for in the movies are the ones that we root for in the movies. The ones that we condemn in reality, we root for in the movies. I'm sorry, I think I said that backwards. We root for the underdog. All right, go. But in reality, when the underdog sets up and says, hey, that's wrong, they go, oh, he's crazy, man. He's a fringe guy. He's stupid. Right. Because we took the blue pill. You see these metaphors, they have now our reality. Avatar was beautiful. And when I was watching, I'm saying, my goodness gracious, what a metaphor for what's going on today. Landing on another planet, destroying everything, defoliating. Where did we hear that? Vietnam. The country so that we can extract the natural resources. Wow, what a unique idea that was. But we did it because we had to fight the Viet Cong, and they're 8,000 miles away. What are they going to do? They're in rice paddies. And we couldn't beat them. And if you notice in all of those movies, there's one thing that is very real, in that the insurgents always win. Think about that. The insurgents always win. Let that sink in. If the insurgents always win, let me say this again, always win, what does that tell you about what is going on today? We only have a few minutes, but I still would like to hear your opinion. Toll free 888-773-4496. That's 888-773-4496. We only have a few minutes, but if you call in, I really would like your opinion. You know, in radio, only less than 1/10 of 1% of the people call. That means if you have 2,000 people listening, you'll get 1 or 2 calls if you're lucky. And that's on a good day, by the way. But then there's a caveat to that. They say, however, if the talk show host is on a roll and people are listening, even those who would normally call in do not. So I'm assuming I'm very effective today because no one's calling. I have people listening. I know that. I can tell by the board. But I know they're not asking questions. But I'd love for you to do so. You give me a break, obviously. But what does that tell you, folks? We're going to see the movie Oblivion, you know? I mean, all these movies. Well, what about even Independence Day? Oh, that was a stupid, you know, that was one of the dumbest movie I have ever seen in my life. It was so, I don't want to go into it. I'll rant for about 3 hours on it. But yet, it was the people from outer space with their big whatever, you know? And of course, you know, we're the underdogs and we have nothing compared to them and we beat them. And we cheer, yay, we feel good when we leave the movies. Now, there's no plot devised by the government to make us think this way. We're just educated to think this way. We are told to think this way. From the time we're in school, we're taught to think this way. No, I apologize. What we are is we are taught not to think. Excuse me. We are taught not to think. Because if we sat down and thought, we would be very, very dangerous people to the government. I saw an ad the other day. You know what? And I think it was for the Kindle tablet, where kids download books and stuff like that. And this kid is reading, and he said, I like reading because it makes me think for myself. I went nuts. I wrote that down. I had to write it down. I love reading because it makes me think for myself. Those are the most dangerous words to the Leviathan, that the Leviathan, that our government, our bloated, corrupt government could ever hear. People thinking for themselves. I am surprised that the government has not pulled that ad. I know it sounds conspiratorial and all that stuff. Put that away. All right. I think we have a caller on the air, I think. Let's see. Caller, you're on area code 240. Your first name, please, and where are calling from?
My name's Chris, and I'm calling from Maryland.
Valence?
No, Chris, and I'm calling from Maryland. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear. Very good. Thank you very much. Your comment or question, please.
I just wanted to say that I've been listening to you, Joe, and I'm absolutely thrilled to hear what you're saying. I've also seen your video link on your pick, and that I think is very much something to think about. And I'll tell you, I'm part of what is now under the Obama and my governor's plan is now, I guess, the working poor, as the middle class has been pushed down, and with our taxes, I mean. I'm telling you, I'm feeling beat down, and I can really see that it'd be very easy to think about this revolution like you're talking about. I've written to my my representatives, and I keep bugging them, saying you're not doing me any favors, you're not helping me.
Right. Yep, you're absolutely correct. I'd love to keep you on the line, but I'm going to lose my bandwidth in about 120 seconds, okay? I want to thank you.
Okay, well, I will let you go, but thank you for taking my call.
But let me say one thing. Hold on, don't hang up yet. Please send me an email to comments@libertytalkradio.com with a mailing address and a T-shirt size. I'd love to send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Joe. Take care.
You.
Have a great day.
Folks, we have other callers on the line, but unfortunately, we are now, we are now out of time. So we want to thank everyone for listening in.